Okay, welcome to episode 5 of the Paradigm Shift. Today, I'm joined by a very, very good friend of mine. Somebody that I've known for a long, long time. We've been friends since secondary school, up until today.
You said that like we're old, we're not that old. Like.
Yeah, I know.
I'm still young.
But yeah. So,
Hey, my name is Daniel. If you haven't met me before, most of you probably haven't met me before. I don't know who listens to your podcast. I think the local, they might have met me.
not the old podcast.
Okay.
That's not the old one. This is a new one.
Okay, cool. Well, most of you haven't met me before. Well, you definitely haven't met me before if you're listening now. Daniel, I was going to give you my pitch.
Go for it.
I was going to give you my pitch.
Go for
I was
it.
like, I'm the co-founder. No. Yeah, I've known Tunji for quite a while now. We have built things. We have seen them through. We have seen them fail. And I guess throughout that whole journey, we have kind of learned things along the way.
A lot.
And it's kind of we've learned things together,
Mm-hmm.
which is, what was that thing we always say? You have to go to hell and come back and so on. And we found different analogies for explaining things to understand them better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time now we have discussions, especially in the group chat nowadays, and we're kind of, it's not necessarily about trying to find the conclusion or an answer, but we're challenging each other in the ways we think about things.
Mm.
And I think that allows us to approach the world, first of all, with a more open mind, but then it allows us to be more tolerant of things and people that we don't understand. So, ever grateful to be on this podcast and to have a friend to have conversations like that. And yeah, that's me. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Okay, so let's get right into it. So, there's just been a lot that we were having discussions the other day about black demographics and stuff like that in America, because we can only really speak on America because in America there's more in-depth statistics. You can't find anything in the UK. You can't really find anything in Ireland either.
Mm-hmm.
So America is kind of where you kind of get a general idea as to like those statistics, and you kind of put it throughout the world then. So you kind of take it for the UK, you kind of take it for everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we were looking at was the death rate in people from between the ages of 19 to 24, then 24 to 44.
Yeah.
In each demographic. And in each demographic, it was so crazy because black Americans, I was actually really surprised to see that between the ages of 19 and 24, there's a 35% chance you'll be killed by homicide.
Yeah.
35% chance. That's way too close to 50. So every day you leave your house, there's a 35% chance you'll be killed by another person.
Yeah.
And it was only with black people that it was like that. With other people, other races and ethnicities, it was a lot lower. Like with Asians, it was like 4%.
Mm-hmm.
With Caucasian, it was like, I think it was like 15%.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Hispanics, it was a little bit higher, just underneath black Americans.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting because, and one thing we should clarify is that it's, if I have this correctly, it's the cause of death of black men is 35% through homicide.
Yeah.
So
between those ages.
Between those ages specifically, I think, wow. Where do you go from there?
There's a third of a chance that you're going to be killed.
Is it a third
is
it a third of a chance that I'm going to be killed, or a third of a chance that if I am killed, it will be through homicide?
Yeah.
A third of a chance I'm going to be killed.
That's different.
That's a different question. How likely is it I'm going to be killed if I go outside right now?
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Yeah. And then another thing that was really on my mind was, now that I got into that loophole, that rabbit hole, the thing that was on my mind now was to go into marriages and divorces within all those ethnic backgrounds.
But just before we do that, let's roll back for a second. What do you think fuels the homicide rates in black communities? Like, what is it?
That's a good question. I think there's so many things. And from what I'm seeing from where I am here, I'm not on ground there, so I can't really speak on their issues on ground. But from what I'm seeing, I genuinely believe in the fundamental element, it's because their dad's not in the home.
Ah, that's interesting.
Because the stat that I have here says that only 37% of African Americans have a two-parent home. 37%. So the other So the remaining, it's either it's a single mother household, or you're with your mother, but she's married to someone else, so it's a stepdad.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the only options that you have, or you have no parents.
Mm-hmm.
But 37% of the time is when kids have two-parent homes.
And why do you think a man being in the house affects the child's development to the extent
That they don't commit crime.
that they don't commit homicides?
Yeah. So it's a good question.
Well, that's a different statistic, right? Because the stat tells us that a black male dying between those ages, I don't know if it's male or female or both, there's a 35% chance that it will be through homicide.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't tell us whether it's going to be inflicted by another black male or whether it's it could have been induced by, I don't know, a white person, an Asian person.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that. We don't know that it's black people killing black people here.
Yeah.
But we do know that 35% of the time that black folks that within that age range is due to homicide.
Due to homicide, yeah.
So how do they get caught in environments is probably in those environments where they are likely to be killed by homicide.
I think
Still the father.
The father and location.
Okay.
So one thing that I do know about America is that they had that redlining.
Okay.
That redlining thing where they couldn't buy property, and they kind of lumped them all into one area. Because they do that in Dublin.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it in Dublin, and think about where we are coming from, Dunleer.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the new estate that was put there.
Yeah.
All the people that are in that new estate, where did they come from?
Mm-hmm.
Inner city Dublin. They wanted to shift everyone out so they can make space for working class in Dublin now.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get accommodation for them. So they're trying to shift all the people that are in the inner cities of Dublin out to the countryside and give them their free housing there instead. And they give them full houses now. You know, so it'll be a hard deal not to take up on. Because if you can get a brand new house when you're just living in the flats in Dublin, you're going to take it. So they're trying to ship them out. But let's just say America's reversed.
Yeah.
They're trying to pull them all in. And they put them there and then they just leave them.
So, and do you think this is, they know that they're doing? I mean, at this point now, you should definitely have the numbers to show you the effect of doing this, right?
100%.
If you pool, that's interesting. Why is it that when you pool black people, let's say you pool up black people, there's an increase in homicides amongst those people? Why is that tension amongst black people in communities? You don't get that. I'm assuming you don't get that with white people or Asian communities or different ethnicities.
Yeah.
Well, what is it that fuels it within the black community in particular? Because you would expect that if you put enough people with a shared characteristic or quality, such as the color of their skin, amongst each other. And this is not to say that there isn't nuances amongst all different kinds of black people, which some white people would not believe. But I think you would expect that some form of community should form whereby, maybe I want to extend this even like the Jews, for example.
Yeah.
But again, the Jews is not but again, you'd expect some community to form where that they are stronger together. And as a result, maybe I wouldn't expect so much homicides amongst them.
Okay. I think to understand it, I think we need to go back to where it started. I can't relate to Americans because they had a different thing. Their history, as they know it, was that they were slaves. That's all they know. But our history, you know, because your mom and my mom are from a place where they were the kings of that time sold the slaves to America.
That is true.
You know,
if you didn't know that,
if you didn't know, now you know where our parents came from in Edo State.
The Benin people sold.
The people of Benin.
Yeah.
The kings of that time sold slaves to American people. They're the ones that sold the slaves over. So we can't relate to American struggles, right? Because we came from that place, right? Yeah. But I still believe that in the last 100 years or so, I think a slave mentality has been put on the mind through media.
Slave mentality.
Yeah. I think the slave mentality and the scarcity mindset.
What is the slave mentality?
So I think the slave mentality is trying to believe that if I win, that means, no, if you win, I'm losing. If you gain, that means that's something I can't gain. There can only be one of us to win. There can only be one of us to get ahead. There'll only be one of us to excel.
And how did slavery kind of? What was it about slavery that kind of created that thought pattern amongst black people?
Okay, think about the plantations.
Yeah.
The just thinking about it now, the most ruthless, from what I've heard, documentaries and stuff like that, the most ruthless people were the ones where the slaves themselves that worked directly for the owner.
Fair.
You know, they treated black people worse than the slave owners did. You know, to gain their approval.
Got it.
That's the slave mentality. It's trying to gain the approval of, you know, people that aren't you. Let's just say it can be the Jewish. Let's just say it could be white people. Let's just say it could be another ethnic group of people, or to gain the thing of the masses. Maybe a change now. You don't want to gain the approval of the masses. I mean, of a certain person now. Maybe it's a group of people now.
Do you think it was a safety mechanism to some
Oh,
degree?
100%.
In that if I dim the light of all the other slaves to appear as better, I become more favorable to the master.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. That's okay. I mean, I have to get back into the whole slavery stuff. I not as versed as I was some time ago in it, but it's
It's intriguing because when you actually think about it like that, that's where I believe it comes from. So now I'll go back to, because we're Nigerian, we'll go back to Nigeria now.
Yeah.
Nigeria weren't enslaved by anyone.
Yeah.
But the mentality that they have there and the mentality that they have in America is very similar in terms of, but maybe it's because of the immense poverty that's there, that people will do anything. They will stiff you today in order so that they can get that food today, because in my opinion, from what I've seen with Nigerians in Nigeria, they can't see past today. So if taking an extra €100 off you means that I can eat today, I'm gonna do it. Like, they don't really have a conception of, look, like their situation isn't stable enough to plan for the future. Because you can be working and your boss will just say, yeah, we don't have anything for you this month, and you're a police officer or something like that. So, like, you don't know when they're going to pay you.
So it's almost, it's every man for himself.
Yeah.
Not because it's just a survival mechanism, right? Interesting. But why did that not develop amongst the Jews, for example?
I think, like, it's such
probably
a good
did
question.
to something. I'm not going to extrapolate that it didn't happen, but the Jews have become immense. The success and the wealth they've been able to amass.
It's absolutely immense.
Right, so
Every industry they own, they're at the top of every industry. If you really think about it,
So what's the difference? What went wrong?
they work together, man.
Yeah.
You know, but not only just work together, they broke bread with each other, because it's a thing of, with black people, it's more of it's a conditioning, and I don't know where the conditioning came from, but conditioning doesn't just happen in one generation. It could happen in 4 generations.
Yeah.
You know, and then to get rid of all of that 4 generations of conditioning, it's going to take another 4 generations.
Yeah.
You know, so our great grandkids, and okay, finally, whatever mentality we have now, it'll dilute down to where this is no longer in the blood anymore.
Got it.
It's not there anymore. You know, but where we are today, people have been conditioned to think a certain way, and I think that when all this stuff happened to the Jews and stuff like that, right? The Holocaust, all of that. That's where it was after that, because they were hated by the world. You know, at that stage, everywhere they went, oh, Jewish this, A, B, C, and D, they were hated. So they had no choice. They had nothing else but themselves. They only had themselves, right? And from there, they started building infrastructure in any way that they could. In America, I know they got big because Christian lawyers wouldn't divorce couples.
Okay.
So the Jewish lawyers stepped in at around that time, and then they said we can be divorce lawyers. So they built wealth that way. You know, you can be a divorce lawyer. A lot of people are getting divorced, A, B, C, and D. Boom. That's one industry.
Yeah.
They tackled that one. Another industry could happen in the media, for example. Let's say the recession happened or something. Somebody will just come in. Okay, they'll buy it. Okay, they'll put you here, you here, you here. it kind of happens in Nigeria with with the North.
Yeah.
In every government in the whole country, you have someone from the North at the top, and they're all feeding back to the North. You know, and if they hire people, they need to make sure that somebody from Kano is at the top, and then everything kind of feeds down.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to put someone from Yoruba. They don't want to put Yoruba person there. They don't want to put an Edo person there.
Yeah.
Has to be from for a Hausa person at the top, and then everything kind of goes down. Then
Yeah.
you know, I think it actually takes the same kind of idea, but in Nigeria, it's just a bunch of greed. You know, they're actually not doing anything. It's just a group of people that just want to take everything.
Yeah.
And they're not adding any value to anybody. They're just making the country worse and bleeding it while they're there. So I think the Jews came together and built infrastructure together. And it's like, if I win, okay, I can put you on, I can put you on, I can put you on, I can put you on. And then they'll build up. The Asians have done it as well.
Yeah.
In Ireland, you can see them. They come in, a family will come in, they'll build a business, they'll start bringing all their family over, start hiring them, then they'll go out and start doing their own thing. It seems like we're the only ones that don't do that. We're the only ones that if you're winning, that means I'm losing.
It's a zero-sum game.
Like, why are we the only ones that do that?
No, and I think there's some degree where I'm like, well, you know, it's not everyone that's black shares the same mindset. There's definitely, you know, groups of black people who are, you know, distributing resources amongst themselves accordingly. Maybe that, again, still is the problem, right? Because I find and I've seen that if it does tend to be shared amongst a group of black people, it is exclusively shared amongst that group of black people, right? And it's almost like, because again, what's happening most of the time is kind of, there's a piece that has been broken off from the larger kind of pie, and that pie is generally owned by a group of people that are not black, for example.
Yeah.
But anyways, that piece tends to be kind of tightly held by a small group of people in power if they are black, right? It just doesn't keep falling down.
It doesn't
if that
circulate.
makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't circulate.
I don't know what it is. It's too. I don't know. I feel like it's too easy to call it like, you know, it's this zero-sum game that, you know, I want to win, I want you to lose. There has to be something deeper there. Like it almost feels like
Scarcity mentality as well.
Yeah.
If I share this, I could lose it. Scarcity. They're trying to hold on to it so tightly.
Yeah, but it's easy to say that, but sharing isn't easy when you think about it, right? Because I feel like to some degree with sharing, it's like, okay, once I start sharing, then, you know, how much do I share until I start to feel like I'm being taken advantage of, right? And I feel like this is a thing I've said before, and this is the issue with, let's say, sending money back home.
Yeah.
I feel like when you give people money, it reduces their ability to make money.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense?
It does. So for the people listening, explain it a little bit, what it means.
It's like the ability to make money is a muscle. And when I give you money, the ability for you to grow that muscle decreases, right? Because you don't have to flex it as much in order for it to grow. Right? It's quite simple in kind of bodybuilding terms or whatever. I think, that concept is interesting because then you have to look at it, well, okay, then I should be looking at ways that I can, rather than give fish, teach them how to fish. And this is kind of slightly off topic, but I was kind of going at my mom the other day because she wanted to kind of import products to Nigeria. And I was like, well, I was kind of on the fence with all the importing stuff at the moment because just from what I'm reading, right, importing things reduces the indigenous people ability to create those things themselves to sell it amongst one another. And they become reliant on the imports.
Exactly.
In order for trade to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
So then when that stops, what happens?
Exactly, right? So, you know, that's where I'm at the moment. And I think it's in the opposite direction when we talk about exports as well. I mean, Nigeria, for example, has a lot of natural resources.
So much.
But instead of utilizing those resources internally to grow the economy, what happens is it gets extracted from there.
Yeah, and sold back.
Sold, like, what?
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent there. I'm trying to loop it back up now. But it's like anything but actually growing the economy within itself. It's almost like it's a supplier for other things outside of itself. I don't know. I maybe on a macro level, like it's playing this kind of middleman role, but you're never the actual the person that's. You're never at the top. You're never the boss, right? You're never the person that's actually responsible for, I guess, for the operation. Maybe that in itself is an issue. And maybe we get too satisfied with playing that kind of middleman role that we've never been able to see. It's almost like it's like act as if. But how can you act as if you're the owner of a corporation if, as far as you can see, is only you being the middleman and you helping someone else attain the goals and you stopping someone else from taking the position? Because the middleman position is very fragile.
Because it just takes one person to say, I can give you a better deal.
Yeah, right? So it's extremely fragile. You either want to kind of, it's a cornered resource. You want to protect the thing that has allowed you to rise to that middleman position, to be, again, trusted by. Let's go back to the slavery analogy you gave at the beginning, right?
Straight up.
If you show that you can, is it control, or I don't know how to explain it at the beginning, but again, if you become more favorable to the master, if you can show your is it your benefit or your indispensability by not allowing people to rise to the position that you're in. So
it's almost gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping, yeah.
You know,
I guess you could summarize it with gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
And that is very interesting because you see it happening. It's gatekeeping, stopping people from doing things, and then withholding information as well. One thing that I know excel the Jewish people is sharing information. Because having access to information lets you know what to do with that information. If you choose to act on it, you can. But if you don't have the information to begin with, and the people that are winning don't pass the information down, now everybody's lost here. But it's only you that has this info, and you're holding on to it. But what I've tended to see is that the more you give away, the more it comes back to you. And you don't even need to, but that's the thing. It's people don't think of it like that.
Yeah.
If I give all of this away and I keep giving and giving and giving, it will always come back.
But there's certainly a degree, there's an element of faith in that there, or just trust in the universe, right? If faith is perhaps the too religious term. But to have that trust in the universe, it's something you develop over time that, whatever you give out will eventually make its way back to you.
100%.
And I think once you have that kind of mindset, it becomes a lot more easier to give stuff away or just not to care when things get taken away from you.
Exactly.
Because you never owned it in the first place.
Exactly.
But it will find its way back to you.
Yeah. Like Jesus says in the Bible, if you hold your life, you will lose it.
Yeah.
But if you leave your life, you'll keep it.
Yeah.
If you lose your life, you'll keep it. So it's like I don't need to be holding on to these things, thinking that, oh, this is my last thing. I can't do anything with it. I can't help. If it's my last, because you know me, I used to be so giving to my own detriment. So I would give away my last €50. Now I won't eat while somebody else will be using it to go and friggin' party. You know?
Where's my money?
You know?
You said they give it to me on Friday.
You know? So at the end of the day, I learned my fair share of lessons in giving. But at the end of the day, I've always gotten back. Everything has always came back to me.
But to come back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, right? So let's tie it all up together because we've kind of gone on a tangent. So if you're listening, you might be like, well, where's this going? How did we get here?
Yeah.
So we started off with homicides, right?
Yeah.
And quickly we ended up in a situation where, like, we believe homicides could be happening because of this zero-sum game mentality that black people have amongst one another. I can't win if you don't lose. And then we moved on from there, and then we're talking about kind of how slavery enforces mentality that you have to corner a resource in order for you to appear as indispensable to the higher authority, so that you don't lose that position, and I guess everything's good for you, and it's like a survival mechanism
Only
for you and your family, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, because we kind of went back to Nigeria and said, this middleman role that they're playing and so on and so forth. And don't get it wrong, because the middleman role can be very, very profitable. In many cases, the Jews played the middleman role very well, and they were very well positioned to do it because of the fact that they were outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also, I don't know, I was going to say Jews are generally white, but I don't know if that's correct to say, so I'm going to avoid that. But I'm going to state this instead. Are we going to change it on a court that isn't ours?
Mm-hmm.
Or should we be looking, I guess it's almost nationalistic, at going back and building it better on our own terms in our own countries?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my head is at. And I think this is a larger topic as well. Like, what makes more sense to do? Would you say homicides rates are as high in Nigeria or in countries that are predominantly black, where black people reside?
No, I don't believe so.
I have to look it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's assume for the purpose of this. Let's assume right now we'll do it from both angles. Let's assume that. I don't want to assume because
yeah, like you won't really come to a conclusion. But we're not trying to really come to a conclusion. It's just to give opinions on it. But going back to what you said, because I like that angle you were going at. Going back home to start from there and building there.
Mm-hmm.
It's mad because it's like everybody kind of wants to push it onto somebody else and say, we need to go back and start building something there, so we can start building.
No.
But nobody wants to be the one to volunteer themselves.
Yeah.
Because with that game, it's a game that you might never see the result.
Of course.
You'll die and never seeing the result, but you'll leave the world with hope that the next generation can continue on from where you left off.
Yeah.
So that requires a lot of self-sacrifice. And one thing that I've realized is a lot of people are a lot more selfish now. We're way more selfish than before. The Chinese actually do this very well, to where they'll suffer for their whole life betting on the next 300 years, because of the mentality that was kind of drilled into them. I'm not doing this for me. It's for my honor and the generations to come after. They'll sacrifice for themselves. But it's like now in the Western world, we're against that. Even so much as having families in it. People even look at kids as a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about kids, but where's your, not legacy, but like, where's your offspring? How are you going to reproduce? If you reproduce and you're only thinking about yourself and not compromising on your own values and stuff like that here, not compromising on your own fun so that, the next generation can't even take that on. What are you supposed to do?
Maybe we've become more selfish as a
way more selfish.
It's years ago, one of the primary objectives was to reproduce.
Yeah.
And everything else in your life was just to enable the successful nurturing of the thing or the child you have created, right? That's the reason. You work to live, you work to provide for that child so that it's nurtured to get up to a point where it can fend for itself. And if you've done that, then you've been successful, at least on the dynamic, on a vector that matters the most. Perhaps there's many more things that cloud what it means to live a complete life now. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, right? Because you can't just say, like, optimizing for your career or financial success is a bad thing. I mean, everyone gets to decide for themselves.
True.
But, yeah, those are my thoughts on that for now. It's still very cloudy.
Okay. So what I'm thinking about, the thing that is going through my head is, because I'm a Christian, and the Bible says to go out into the world and reproduce. So it's like multiply.
Yeah.
Right. So multiply yourself, keep multiplying, and populate the world. Right. And what I'm seeing is more people are looking at kids as a burden when that was actually something that was kind of the purpose.
Kids are a burden. Yeah, that's just it.
they're not a burden. They just like
Let's define a
to
burden. What
gain
is a
anything.
burden?
Okay, a burden is something that is an inconvenience for you. Having a kid, I don't think it's an inconvenience. It is if you just want to have fun, and I guess if you want to be malleable, you want to move here. Okay, you want to be able to move quickly on your feet. You can't do that anymore, you know. But then don't have a kid.
So, should people ignore their desires to want these things because they have a kid?
Yeah, I think so because we need to stop thinking about ourselves. Since like we're so selfish now. Let's think about the next generation. It's not only about us, it's about the next generation because kids are being born every day, right? Now, what are they going to learn? And then when those kids are looking around and saying, okay, well, everyone sees kids as a burden, I'm also going to take that mentality. And then by the time they have kids then, before you know it, marriage won't even be a thing anymore. Having a full family unit won't be a thing anymore. And the way I'm seeing things going is that in the next maybe 100 years, God forbid, but I think marriage will be completely gone.
What do you want? Do you want marriages or do you want kids?
Well, marriages bring kids.
Or you don't have
When you're married, you should have children.
Ideally, that's what should happen, but that's not what happens.
Yeah.
So if you have to choose one now,
it's changing.
over the next 100 years, one of these is we're going to have one and not the other. It's marriages or children. What do you go for? Because you can definitely have marriages without kids.
Yeah.
That's probably like you want the comfort of you want the comfort of having a partner, but you don't necessarily want additional members within that.
Yeah, I hear that. I think marriage is good only because it makes it difficult for people to just pack their bags and leave.
Yeah, but what would you optimize for if you had to choose between marriage and kids? Okay.
Children. I'll optimize for kids.
Okay.
Because I know that that's just me. I want to have a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it'd be selfish to only focus on myself and making my goals happen and stuff like that. No, I need to put what I believe into the next generation so that they can also continue it. Because at the end of the day, if everybody just doesn't want to have kids and kids are an inconvenience, then in the next 100 years, when we're 30, like just imagine 70-year-olds in 30 years, they'll be 100, they'll be gone. And the 30-year-olds would now be 70. Now they're looking at the kids that they gave birth to when they were selfish in their 30s. Now thinking like, damn, who's going to take care of me?
I think that's like I've always said this and I keep saying it, I think from an entrepreneurship standpoint and tech entrepreneurship, I think old people is a massive problem that's being severely underlooked at the moment.
Yeah.
The population is getting older.
Yeah.
What it's worth. I mean, what we want is that there is more kids so that, there's more young people around when we're old and so on and so forth. But
exactly.
Let's assume that it isn't going in that direction. And let's assume that it's not going to change. Then we need to look at ways for I think life at the moment is very youth oriented. As more people get older, we need to look at improving the standard of living for older people.
Yeah.
I think naturally it's going to happen just because there's more people getting old. But yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity there. Really excited for the stuff that gets built in that space. Just on a side note. But yeah, which is weird. Just before I go off it, a lot of people are going to try and build to optimize for enabling people to relive their youth when they're old, which I think is the wrong take. I think you should be looking more at how do you enable old people to enjoy being old?
Yeah.
Rather than this kind of weird, paradoxical,
it's like you want to stay young forever.
Be young again kind of thing.
I don't get it.
It's hard, but I think it's possible. I'm curious to see what happens there.
Yeah, we're going to see. Next 35 years,
yeah.
I feel like a lot of things will happen. But going back, I think children are needed, but we're being a lot more selfish now. And as a result of that, like I said earlier, old people, the young people that are very young now, the people that aren't even born, when we're old, who's going to take care of these old people? Like, it's like nobody's like really thinking that far ahead. And that's another thing that I've realized is people before used to think much more far ahead. But now it's like, everyone's only looking for today. But I think that goes with the attention span that we have now because of these new social media apps and stuff. Attention span is shrinking. So looking 7 years in the future is just like an impossible thing now. You can't even look that far. You can't even plan that far ahead anymore. And I think that's as a result of that, people are only focused on themselves and like this selfish kind of thing that's happening right
And
now.
there's always going to be that tension there between long-term thinking and short-term thinking.
Yeah.
Even from a political standpoint, I would say a lot of the sides or divisions can be kind of brought down to how they think about the future. Right? Should they optimize for short-term or long-term?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm stuck on the long-term versus short-term thinking, and should you optimize your actions for generations that you will not live to see exist? I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. I think, because our ancestors did it for us.
Did they?
I believe so.
How?
Because look at the information that was passed down to us. We still have the Bible. All these holy books were passed down. If something like that was done now in this age, it'd be gone in the next century, in the next generation.
So you don't think anything that exists now will...
Nah.
Really?
Nah.
Huh.
I don't believe so. Because realistically, everything is put on computers now. All you need to do is turn a switch off. The electricity's gone. All the information's gone. But you can go to your house and you'll always find a Bible. That will always be there. I think if we're focusing too much on the digital side, and there's like a battle between physical and digital assets and real assets, and I think people just need to be careful in what they do, but also we need to go back again, right? Because we went off on a big tangent there.
Started on homicides.
Yeah, it started on homicides and we ended up here. So I also think that going back to the marriage element, that marriages will probably disappear because even now, in this day and age, only, I think with Asians, in the Asian community, 62% of the people are married or get married, right? And then those Asians have an 82% rate in which they have two-parent homes, and they only have 17% in divorces. So it's very low divorces, very high marriages, and they stay together longer. But in other communities, it's completely different. Like, we rank the lowest of all of them, right? And as a result of that, I believe that it's very dangerous because if there's no family unit, because I believe the family unit is the basis of society. Society can't be built on something that's not as grand as a family unit. If a family unit is dysfunctional, that means your whole life is, your whole life is dysfunctional as well. It'll be a byproduct because whatever happens at home, the place that you feel is most safest and most comfortable, while the world is all crazy out there, whatever happens in the house, you're going to bring out there.
But, family. How is family defined and why, like family by blood? Is that necessary for it to be defined as family? The words used there were a safe space where you feel kind of comfortable, welcomed, accepted, right? Can you get that same, I guess, I don't want to call it experience, but those same qualities from people who might not be blood? Right? What if the family is not going anywhere? It's just changing.
When you put it like that, I can see how that could be a thing.
Okay. Then we need to figure out, okay, let's assume that the family is changing. We don't know how, but we know it's changing. It's not what was traditionally there. But how can we tweak it in ways that enable young black men, for example, in this case, to be, well, I want to say to become upstanding, strong men. But, what does that mean? But let's solve this problem first. How can we do it in a way that reduces homicide rates? That's what matters. And I think role models play a key role there.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So then how can we make it easier for young black men to get access to role models who they may not see in the kind of environments in which they're brought up in? Like, do we need to take them out of the environment for them to understand that they are role models outside of the environment in which they grew up in? Or are there ways that we can kind of penetrate the environment to provide this information to them in a way that appeals to them as well, right? Because, it's very easy and it's very easy for you to go up in a neighborhood where the role model is the drug dealer with a fancy car and fancy clothes and house all the girls and tell them that he's a bad role model.
Yeah.
But again, relative to their frame of, I want to say, relative to the kind of what they see on a daily basis and what everyone around them is toiling to achieve, he has it.
Yeah.
Right?
He's
so
that image,
you're asking them to change what, to kind of almost...
their definition of success.
Exactly.
You're telling them to throw that away and focus on this where they have nothing to aim for.
Yeah. It's like, what am I aiming for here? It's like, this guy has everything that it seems that everyone around me is going for.
Yeah.
You're telling me all of a sudden I shouldn't care about it.
That's very tricky.
I think it's a hard topic. Yeah.
And then taking social media into account as well. All the famous people that they might see then are athletes, entertainers, and stuff like that. But even those people let's just say, those people, a lot of them are divorced. They are all in rocky relationships, public ones as well. You know, so what image does that give them on the ground level? So then it's just like, so I'm just going to be like this, and I'm just going to be sleeping around with everyone, baby mama here, baby mama there, and before you know it, you know, there's a lot of dysfunction. There's more dysfunction. You know,
maybe this ties back to having kids.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you grow up with the mentality that you want to have kids someday in the future, then you understand that every action you make today, in some way or some form, is going to impact those children. And I think that, I don't have kids now, but I think some days I would love to have kids. And when I think of it, it kind of makes me happy.
Yeah, same.
But it definitely does, to some degree, affect the way I make decisions today.
100%.
For the kids I don't even have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if my mindset is that I never want to have kids in the first place, then every decision I make is optimized for the most joy and happiness that I can get immediately. Yeah. And, you know, I'll do whatever it takes to get that now because I don't care about the long-term kind of future. So, it's tough. Maybe it does come back to this vision or future of wanting kids for yourself and wanting to have some kind of family. Yeah. I don't know. Again, we don't know. The family is changing. Yeah. What is it changing to? We don't know. Yeah. But, you know, this long-term goal that used to be somewhat innately within people to have kids someday in the future, which was, you know, the definition of a successful life lived, is not there so much anymore. What is taking its place? Is it more short-term? What are the effects of it being more short-term? Is it increased homicide rates, particularly amongst Black people? I don't know.
I think it's the thing of winning.
Got it.
I am winning if I can sell all these drugs or quick money. Let me not just say just drugs, because drugs, fraud is another big thing in the community, you know, and other things, right? Yeah. Big money, quick money, fast money. I want to be like him today. What do I need to do to get it? He stole money from me? Anger. Bah, bah. Stab, you know, because everybody's there. Everyone wants to win quick. The long-term thing is gone. It's out the window. You want what he has today. You want to be the boss today. You don't want to grind for 20 years to finally be at the top of your game. You want to be at the top of your game today.
It's weird because we can only talk about it from a men's point of view.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because...
Imagine, I'm seeing Mumsy struggling, having to work 2 jobs, all of this stuff. Suffering, A, B, C, and D. Can't even put food on the table. And I'm just sitting there trying to help her.
Why is it suffering?
Yeah, my dad left.
Why is it suffering? It's good to have responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, I've always said this to people, the goal ultimately is not to not work. Yeah. It's just to change the type of work that we do.
Exactly. Right? But imagine it's the type of work that you have to do it, otherwise you're on the street.
Some people are okay with that. Like, the thing is, not everyone is extremely ambitious. That's something I've had to learn a lot lately, especially with my time in Germany, because I met so many people who told me, like, to my face, it's like, yeah, I'm not the guy that has all the big ideas and wants to do all the big stuff. I just want to get my job, just want to make my money. I want to travel, have kids, have a family. That's it. I'm fine. And they're absolutely content with that. That's it. Right? So not everyone is extremely ambitious and wants to get all these things and whatnot. Maybe there's a flaw as well. Like, why do we want all these things? Why are we toiling for them? Because, I mean, in the end, you know, we don't get to take it with us when we die. But, you know, yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Okay. We're gonna have to end it.
It's tricky. Good conversation, though.
It was a quick convo. This is how we usually talk. So yeah, thank you lot for listening. We'll do another proper episode next time. This is a good warm up anyway.
Yeah, we hope you got something useful out of it.
Yeah.
Well, not something.
Maybe you asked more questions.
Yes. There you go.
That's it.
You're
Maybe
thinking
ask
about
more
something
questions.
differently.
If you think of any solutions, hit me up in the DM.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have a conversation with one of you. Okay?
Awesome.
Thank you so
Great to be
much.
here.
All right.
Bye now.
Peace out.
Oh, man, that was...